All right, we are live. Tapping Birdie, BMW Championship with my good friend Adam, also known as DG Betting. We'll be spending the weekend together on the grounds at this event, looking at some flyovers. The course looks absolutely pure. Everyone there is a good golfer. I'm could not be more excited for a tournament.
Yeah, no, I've been to a handful of tournaments, and this is up there with the most excited I've been because, like you said, no cut this week. It's all the best players on the PGA Tour. Usually, when you're going to a tournament on the weekend, you're watching those first couple of days, like praying that the people you've bet on or the best players are there. Like at least this week, even if our bets are in 30th or 40th place going into the weekend, we can hold out the hope for a miracle comeback and at least go try to cheer them on for a few holes.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to seeing this course in person. Like, it really looks very pure, very legit, like a lot of undulation changes. Like, it just looks like a very aesthetically pleasing, tree-lined course. And, we'll get into whether the strategic value of it is great for these guys, but I think it's a nice piece of property. Wilmington, Delaware, one of the top destination vacation spots in America. So it's going to be a great weekend, and hopefully we have some guys in the mix.
Yeah, no matter what, it's going to be a great weekend. And as you know, I grew up on the West Coast out in Seattle. So each time I get to venture into one of these new random states on the East Coast, it's always a positive. So my first trip up to Connecticut was for the Travelers with you, and this will be my first time down into Delaware. So looking forward to seeing another beautiful part of the East Coast.
Yeah, no, Jers, obviously Wilmington, Delaware is not a nice city, but Jers made it seem like we're going to a really bad city. Like, it's not nice. So I scoped out the street view of our hotel. It's fine, very nice, not run down, nice stores around. So we're good. I'm not worried at all about our surroundings. So it's going to be a great time. Again, very much looking forward to it. So before we get into, the betting board last week, all the stuff, got to shout out our presenting sponsor, BetSperts Golf. They're great. I'm pretty sure we were all on Zalatoris last week, including my girlfriend Paige. They're running a really great deal right now. So go check it out for the swing season. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. So coming off the FedEx St. Jude Championship, what were your overall impressions of the event? How enjoyable was it to watch the playoff, even without a dog in the fight? Do you like this venue as kind of a starter for the FedEx Cup Championship?
Yeah, like you said, I wasn't on board the Zalatoris train, but it's one of those where I didn't have many regrets at all. I was on Fenow, who for most of the week was close to the live favorite to win the tournament. So for me, each week, it's did I get enjoyment out of watching the event? Because I had a guy in the mix, and I think definitely did. And so by the time the playoff came around and it was Willie Z in there, I've bet Willie Z a million times. It wasn't one of those where I was hoping he wouldn't break through. I wanted to see him win, but I also wanted to see him earn it. And so to have a playoff like that, where it was so back and forth and anything could have happened, made it arguably probably one of the most enjoyable weekends of the year. Because I even saw people who I wouldn't consider big golf fans just talking about how entertaining that was. And I think Saturday or Sunday, looking at that leaderboard, or early Sunday and throughout Saturday and maybe Friday as well, that leaderboard wasn't the most exciting. And I think it was kind of a potential worst case scenario for the PGA Tour and their kickoff event. And so to have it end the way that it did, I think was about as good as it could be. And then you were on the winner. So tell me from your perspective how it went.
Yeah, it was great. One thing I will say, I think Will moves the needle with average golf fans. And you wouldn't really think that. He's not a Rory, JT, or Spieth, but he is the new face of the he's not the new face of the PGA Tour. He will be eventually.
Yeah, we were texting about it even before last weekend. We were just talking about who you're going to bet. You were saying you're going to bet Will, and I said I wasn't, but that I love betting Will because something crazy is going to happen every time, and I think it draws in the random fan because just the way he plays and he putts, anything can happen, which is fascinating.
So I really like that he's becoming a poster boy, new generation PGA Tour player. I love the fact that he is 100% committed to the PGA Tour. So it's great. I mean, he's easily my favorite golfer at the moment. It's great to, be on him for the first one. I know Mayo talked about it. I'm glad that it happened. I got a 30-1 versus having him win at 12-1 at the Shriners, or have him win at 18-1 at the Masters, or something like that. Like, I'm just glad we were all on it because, again, everyone talks about it. Everyone wants to be on their guy for the first win. And it happened. Like, everyone was actually on him for the first win. But Will Z has been, even though he hasn't, cashing out right, before me for this event, he's been a profitable bet for me. I've had each ways on him at the Masters and the PGA Championship. Obviously, the U.S. Open stung a lot, him not pulling it out. But some miraculous things happened to Matt Fitzpatrick that week to propel him to victory. And some miraculous things happened to Will Zalatoris this week to make him win. And, you just kind of have to get lucky on the PGA Tour if you're in a close race with somebody and you don't just run away with it. So just like the fact that he made those putts is just unbelievable. Like,
yeah, it was one of those, maybe having not bet him, I have an outside perspective versus somebody who's like sweating him all week, but just kind of like following from a distance about how he was playing. It was like he was just building up. And it seemed like when he made those first few birdies on Sunday that he was going to win by, 3 or 4, Tom Kim type of thing, where he just gets out to a flying start and then there's really no competition. But just like he always does, the driver was lost to the right repeatedly. He could not find the fairway, which is a common recurrence in his final rounds, and was definitely probably the cause of what's cost him multiple times in majors. And so when that was happening, you're like, oh, here we go again. Blocks that one way right on the par 5, knowing that he needs to birdie that hole if he has any chance of holding off the guys who are in the mix, and gets that miraculous kick off the tree. And at that moment, you start to think, okay, there's something here. Yeah. And then he makes that putt on 18, and it's like, okay, he has to win this playoff. Like, he can't lose it. But then he did blow it. Like, he lost the tournament, but Straka decides to go dead at the pin one more time, and it finally costs him.
I think some things get lost. I think the thing that gets lost is he had to get up and down from 50 and 90 yards to, like, stay in and win. Like, I don't care if it's Rory McIlroy or John Rahm. Like, people don't do that. Like, that Sunday down the stretch, like, you need to get up and down from 50 yards. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, I haven't seen a win like that in a really long time where, like, you knew that, like, you had to, put it close. He didn't even, put it close, make a putt. Like, that was just so impressive to me under pressure. 3 times he did it, really.
And we were texting about it afterwards to also, like, how much respect we had for the way Straka played, because he was up against all those exact same challenges that Zalatoris had. Like, he was way left on 17.
And 17 and 18, 190 out from the rough.
Yeah. And so, like, he also, and his is probably way crazier because of how terrible he had been playing coming in, but it's just so impressive to see a guy who, when he gets a sniff of the action, like, he's there to stay. He is not afraid of the moment in any way, shape, or form, which there's plenty of players who are significantly more consistent and skilled than Sepp Straka, who would not have been as bold or taken on some of the shots that he took down the stretch. So you can understand why he has a win, even with such a inconsistent track record. But then he plays a little too fast on the final hole, which has been his thing throughout the playoffs.
He was playing so quick.
And I think when he saw the ball kind of bounce around, didn't know what happened to Zalatoris, if he pauses there for a second and says, I know that ball's on the rocks, I need to put this ball on the green and I should be fine. I think he was just so used to playing quickly, saw the ball, maybe it stayed up, panicked, and said, I'm going to hit it at the flag, and did the exact same thing.
But, like, he had some confidence. Like, I think it was the same yardage where he's like, I'm just going to take a drop and get this up and down, and has one of the nastiest club twirls, like, I've ever seen. Like, that was so sick. Yes. Like, regardless of anything, like, the way Sepp Straka played was really, really impressive. Again, like I said, he, 190 out in the rough, back-to-back holes, can't make a bogey, puts it to, like, 15 feet both times. Like, it was great to see.
One of the shots he was taking, like, 18 in regulation, he flares one way right, like didn't take on the shot, just like lost it out to the right. Bull shots in the playoffs, he tried to play a draw towards the water, like starting it in the fairway. Like he paid the price because it ended up going on the second one. Like if he hits the fairway there and that's his approach shot coming in from that distance, he makes birdie and wins the tournament. So he bit off again a little bit too much more than he could chew. But respect, there's a lot of guys who would not take shots on it at all.
It was just great. And like it was there's such a world every week, but there's such a world in which like he just absolutely just loses it. Like, and Zalatoris, it's like 4 times in 1 year, runner-up finish, losing by 1 stroke. So to be on it is great. We got some money going into the weekend, and we're feeling good. I'm happy about it, and I think it's going to be a great week. So BMW Championship, Wilmington Country Club. We've never seen it in any sort of PGA Tour professional venue before. And I think that poses a really big question this week. I think it makes interesting for betting because as we are kind of projecting and guessing every week, we are really doing it this week. So I know there's some narrative formings based on some players speaking and just, kind of inferences about the course. But again, I always like having you on for a new course. Like I had you on for Mexico because I know you do the work and I trust your opinion. So what is your overall opinion and gist of this course and how it will play this week?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said there about even, you can feel some confidence about your opinion on it, but you could easily be wrong. It's one of those weeks where there's just not a lot of evidence to go off of. But I think when I first looked at the course just a few weeks ago, very casually, because I knew we were probably going to go to, and I just wanted to have a general sense of maybe what it looked like. It looked immediately to me like a Bombers golf course. You've got bunkers on the side of the fairways, and there's a few dog legs where there's bunkers kind of in the dog leg, but the trees aren't tightly right on the edge of the fairway. They're back a little bit, similar to like when you on certain holes at Muirfield Village, for example, that, they're tight, but there's not trees. So if you miss the fairway, you're just going to be in the rough. You're not going to be stuck behind a tree like we saw at the FedEx, for example, where Zal had a ball rolled dead behind a tree. There's multiple times where a lot of guys were kind of just unable to take shots towards the green. I think here, if you're in the rough for the most part, you should be able to take aim at the pin. And honestly, like as Cantlay was saying, and I think it lines up with what we see at a lot of other courses that are similar to this, a Torrey Pines or a Quail Hollow or even Caves Valley last year, is that you'd rather be in the rough hitting an 8 or 9 iron with zero risk of putting it in the fairway bunkers because you just hit it 300 yards over the fairway bunkers and it's not even like it's not on the course for you because those guys are so good at knowing what their carry yardages are off the tee. Like it's just not an issue. And versus laying back and playing a 5 iron from the fairway or whatever it may be. And so when that happens, it's hard not to see it being an edge for long hitters. And then the second piece is with these gigantic greens, it should be pretty easy to get the ball out of the rough and up onto the greens for the most part. And a lot of them also have run-up areas where the same thing, you could kind of just run one up onto the green. And so to escape, a situation that might be a bogey on one course where you hit it in the rough and now the pin's tucked and there's a bunker and there's really no good place to land it on the green and you've got to play to a spot maybe short or intentionally played into a bunker or something like that. Won't really be the case this week, I don't think. Played out onto the green, could have a really long putt, but you should be able to 2-putt that and escape the par. Kind of takes a lot of the bogeys out of play, and that's why I think we'll see a lower score this week. Not necessarily because there's like infinity birdie holes and guys are going to be, birdieing every hole. It's just there's not as many bogeys and double bogeys out there, I think, compared to an average course. But
yeah, I think it's really tough to kind of gauge this week, but something I want to bring up, and I think that's important to note when we get to a new course, is that last year at the BMW Championship, people knew very little about the course, but the narrative was that it is long and Bombers are going to have a massive advantage. And this was before anybody ever saw the course or was played or anything like that. And we got a leaderboard of Bryson DeChambeau, who is unequivocally the longest, one of the best talented drivers of the ball. We have Patrick Cantlay, who was an elite off-the-tee player and still is. Rory McIlroy and Sungjae Im. There were some other guys up there that were just great.
Played well, and Sergio's always been a great driver.
Yep. So, like, I think that I don't think that people should run away from this narrative just because we're projecting. Like, I do think there is some validity to the fact that these guys are going to be ripping drivers. And I think when, you look at the whole distribution, Andy was talking about it on his pod, and I really respect his opinion about it. But there are just some shorter fours like on this course, and these guys are going to have wedges into them. Like, I think there's about 4 or 5 par fours that are, there's just not going to be that much of a long iron in. And obviously it's easier to hit a wedge out of rough. So the thing I think it's going to be like pretty equal, this shot distribution. And I don't know if people should get super caught up on it, but the par threes are long. It's going to be there's going to be a long iron on 3 of the par threes. One of the par fives, long iron, 100%. And then there's 2 long par fours. So there's going to be some long irons in play. But I think where things change a little bit, and I was talking with Andy about this on the course, is that the 2 unreachable par fives, it's just another wedge in your hand. We were talking about it before, about how one of them you think it's not going to be an easy second shot. Like, you're going to have another long iron, but in terms of overall like proximity, like what you're like, really, like, where do you think we should be focusing more on, like good wedge players or good long irons players, or people are just going to have shots from both and it's not something to super harp on?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and like one of the key things that if you can figure out the right answer puts you in a great position to have a good week from a betting or DFS perspective, but it doesn't make it an easy answer, and just because you end up have one take or the other doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be right. Because I do think there is a world where shorter hitters can compete, in the sense that, like, on the longer holes, if they play from the fairway into the huge greens with long clubs and just get it on the surface and have some long 2-putts and make their pars on the difficult holes, they are going to have opportunities to make birdies. It's not like birdies won't be out there for shorter hitters. I just think that their margin of error on those longer holes and their players who are good with their long irons just have a bigger margin of error on those holes as the distance players do as well. So it's like, sure, anybody at this course can hang in there because the greens are massive. You're not going to have to be scrambling a lot. And if you get hot with the putter, anything's possible. They'll just need to be a little bit more precise and have to play from the fairway, can't be driving in the fairway bunkers. So if you are looking for a player, in my opinion, who's more of a kind of wedge shorter player, they've got to be in form playing from the fairway. A Tom Kim type of player who's just been living in the fairways over the last few weeks is a guy who's a very short hitter, but I expect to play well this week, for example.
Yeah, I'm in on taking elite long drivers of the ball like this week. Like, I just am, like, from what Cantley said, like just kind of way this course maps out. I think the fact that on these shorter fours, like, everyone's going to miss the fairways. Like, these fairways are tight. Like, everyone's just going to have a wedge from the rough in. Like, I could see it playing out where, we get a leaderboard, obviously I'm going to bet these guys, but like where it is like Zalatoris, Cam Young, Tony Fenow, Sam Burns, Victor Hovland. Like, I just think that's going to be the case.
That's where I think it will play. Those are the players that I want to bet. Those are the players that I, want to play in DFS, whatever it may be. That's the narrative and the belief that I have about how the course is going to play. Like, that's where I'm going this week. But I do see the other world. It's not like that didn't happen. It's not. There are courses where like short hitters have no chance. Like a big PGA Championship course or something like that at that age. Like, that's tough. But here the greens are massive, so it's much easier for them to hit the. If you are not a great long iron player, to still get the ball on the green, because a long iron goes 50 feet away. Here, that gets you on the green. Another course, you might be screwed in the bunker or get a terrible lie in the rough, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so let's get into it. There's a lot of guys under 20-1. We'll talk about the favorites, who we like the most, but we got Rory off the miscut, Rahm showing some form, Cantley, defending champion, Scotty miscut last week, Fenow, JT, and Zal. So we'll talk about them. Who has your interest in this range? Who are you betting up top, and who do you think kind of has the best opportunity for success here?
Well, I know we'll both be on Zalatoris, but I'll let you take the Zalatoris, the pitch on Zalatoris. But I think there's an interesting thing when you look at Tony Fenow. in the sense that at a lot of places you earlier today, I don't know if you still could, you could get him at 20-1. And when you look back at the last 25 rounds going into this tournament last year versus the last 25 rounds going into this tournament this year, last year, it's not a perfect matchup, but roughly over the same period leading into this tournament, Jon Rahm strokes gained total was 2.82. So 2.82 strokes gained total for Jon Rahm leading into this tournament. And he was the clear favorite in the tournament. At a lot of places, he was single digits. Like, it was very clear narrative at that point that Jon Rahm's the best player. He should be the favorite every single time. This same period leading into it, Tony Finau is averaging 2.77, which is the best in the field, slightly ahead of Rory at 2.72. But Finau's further down the board. He's 20-1 and just not seen as one of, if not the best players in golf at the moment. And I know it's hard sometimes to have that view of Tony Finau because of the history of his career and a lot of runner-up finishes and not winning as many times as he's supposed to. But shouldn't that narrative have gone away? Because he just won 2 tournaments in the last few weeks, heads to TPC Southwind, a course ahead of time that he said he's not fond of. He's not a big fan of Bermuda, and his results there had shown that. Comes out, finishes T5, was right there the whole tournament, but just missed a few too many fairways to win. And he was getting caught behind the trees and at angles where he couldn't get onto the green. He was having to scramble. But when he was getting a clean iron shot into the green, it was precision every single time. And I think this is a week where when he gets offline, he's going to walk out of there with par, and he's going to have so many birdie opportunities. That's another good opportunity for him. And he's one of the best putters from long distance on the tour, which is surprising. If you go and look at green and regulation putting from greater than 25 feet, the best elite player, number 10 on the entire tour, or number 12 on the entire tour, is Tony Finau, one spot ahead of a guy who everybody thinks of as one of the best long putters, Patrick Cantlay. So that's how good Finau has been at converting long-range putts for birdie. He's been sharper on the short putts, and for that reason, I'll bet him again. I bet him last week. It didn't work out, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, he was in it. It wasn't a complete. Yeah,
I'm not going to jump off a guy for finishing T5 and playing the best he's ever played at a course that he said ahead of time he does not play well at, and now he gets back onto a course that I think fits him much better. He's not like the world's greatest bent grass player, but he's been better on bent in his career and feels more comfortable. So we'll roll the dice with Tony, and I like Tony, and we're going, and I look forward to rooting him on in person.
No, I really like Tony this week. Like, I really do. I think he's just completely underpriced in DraftKings for all the reasons that you pointed out. Like, at 9.7, it is an absolute no-brainer for me to play him in DraftKings 100%. But I do, again, I'm not, like, the chalk has been hitting everything. Like, there's just no way he's not a very popular play this week. I think people are going to gravitate towards Tony because, again, everyone's posting these stats about every single round he's just been in the 60s, and like he's way down the board. So I like Tony. I'm gonna have to see what number I can get on him, but I'm totally inclined to play him. I think that people will gravitate towards Rory and Rahm over JT this week because of the driver narrative and the fact that I think Rahm more so than Rory. I think Rahm will be a very popular play this week. People are betting him. I think it's completely warranted. I think you look at what he did last week and things are just clicking. And anytime you talk about it,
off the charts, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, like it's really impressive. Gained 4.4 off the tee last week, 2.7 off approach, neutral putter. Like, Rahm makes all the sense in the world this week, and I'm very quick to find reasons to not be on Jon Rahm, but I have none. I'm glad that he's kind of back into form after a little bit of a lull.
I'll just add on Rahm too. He's obviously great at Memorial. I think it's hard to say for certain, but I like him on bent. I think that's a good surface for him, and he just at Memorial, when in 5 starts ago, was his best putting performance of the season. He talked about in his press conference that he likes these grasses, and that's why he's played so well in other BMW championships. He putted very well, I'm pretty sure, at Caves Valley last year. Yeah, he gained 1.88 per round last year at Caves Valley. So I totally see it with Rahm, and I was between Zalatoris, Fenow, and Rahm, and I could have 2 of them. Rahm barely misses out, mainly because I don't look forward to rooting for Rahm and watching him in person. Like, I'm going to be honest.
That's fine. We should be doing that this week. But the first thing I tweeted after Zal won, like before I even posted anything, I was like, same time next week, like Zalatoris is going back to back. I got a 17-1. I threw a bunch of money on it. I think, barring like the fact that Xander and Tony both won in back-to-back starts this summer, both people that are known as, lovable losers that can't close on tour have done it. I think that is a reason to go back to Zalatoris. I think that the fact that it's the FedEx Cup playoff brings another element to it. If Zalatoris won the PGA Championship over Justin Thomas, no, you do not bet him at 16-1 next week at the Charles Schwab. But we've seen a lot of golfers win 2 events in the same 3-week span in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I was talking to Keith Stewart, who is great, and he said that there have been 11 multi-playoff winners in 15 FedEx Cups. 11. Now, since even if you take out 19-21, where there's still where there was a staggered start, which I think kind of skewed it, there's still 9 times in 12 years where people have won multiple FedEx Cup playoff events. So I think that's another notch for Zal. And this is a guy that should have a lot more wins on tour. Like, he's not, okay, I won one, like, I'm ready to go. No, it's fine. So those are all non-stat reasons to bet Zalatoris. And then the other one is that, again, I think that people are going to be hitting less fairways here. So I think that kind of neutralizes his game. I think that on the long par 3s, he has a great advantage because he is one of the best long iron players
I think that's
in the world.
Edges on the par 3s because he's going to throw darts in there theoretically on 3 of the holes. He can take on shots with his long irons that other guys don't even think about trying. Yeah. Their margin of error is so high with a long iron. His is so much tighter that he can just take on shots that a lot of guys wouldn't even consider.
And, I think the part, like, I don't think that we can just say, okay, like, you need Zal, like, with a long iron. Like, I think he proved, like, he's a good wedge player. Like, he's the best fucking approach player on tour. Like, you don't do that, like, being a shitty wedge player. Like, he has it with every club in the bag. And then the caddy, like, the caddy is one of the best green readers, and he was reading putts excellently. And again, if Zal can putt, like, he'll be in it. And obviously, I mean, that makes sense. But and then another thing, I love a good straw man argument. Everyone on Twitter loves a good straw man argument. Like, I think some people are like, oh, you can't get to 20 under. Everyone's saying it. Everyone is saying that Zal can't get to 20 under. Like, again, if my aunt had a penis, like, she'd be my uncle. He could have gotten to 20 under, like, last week. I mean, easily.
A couple of things on his can he get to 21 under. Again, I agree with that take in general, but I just don't think, like, it's true anymore. I think there was a time and a period where he's only going to be playable on hard courses, but he's putting when he focuses in and wants to make putts, the wrong word, because I'm sure he wants to make putts every single time he plays. But his ability to show up and make putts in the tournaments that matter is really impressive. And it just shows when he locks in and focuses. There's been a variety of different greens across the majors this year, and he's putted pretty well at every single one of them. Shows up at the first FedEx Cup event where he needs to pay attention, or like is going to care versus a regular PGA Tour event. Brings his A game on the greens. And over his last 4 events, when you just look at birdie or better percentage, Cam Smith right now leads the entire PGA Tour at 27% birdie or better percentage. And I think everybody thinks of Cam as this guy who can shoot, infinity under par, great putter, doesn't matter. You can shoot whatever score you want. Over the last 4 events, Zalatoris, 29%, 31%, 31%, 28%. On the year, he's 10th, I think, on tour in birdie or better percentage. Like, he's capable of doing it. He just has to make putts, and he makes putts when he's dialed in and he's focused. And I think he will be this week. And so I'm willing to take the risk again on in my opinion, the best ball striker in the field, that he's going to show up again on the greens, and that's the.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a better case to be made for a golfer on tap and birdie than we just made for Will Zalatoris. I know he's at a short number, but and then again, he's going to be like 13% owned in DraftKings. I know you don't play a lot of DraftKings, but he's going to be in like 100% of my lineups this week.
What I'm looking forward to seeing too, this is completely unrelated, is I know you think you're going to be getting like a high five from Will Zalatoris at the event. Like, I know you're excited to be watching him in person, and I am as well, because watching Will Zalatoris in person is sweet. Like, the shots he hits are insane. But when I saw him at the U.S. Open in the practice rounds, all the other players in the tournament, they're high-fiving people, they're smiling, laughing around. Will Zalatoris was walking far away from the crowd, did not look up once, head down, dialed in, focus. Like, when he's on the course, this dude is serious. And I'm looking forward to you seeing like your favorite player who, I mean, he's clearly a nice guy, like does a ton, like, I'm not saying he's a bad dude. He's just a different guy, like on the course playing than he is when you see, tweets and things like that. Like, this dude stood on the green, made a 10-foot putt, turned and yelled like, what are they going to say now? Like, you never see that on a golf course. I think he just has like a different level of like focus and energy that he brings versus a lot of players on the tour.
Yeah, because I like, when you follow a golfer, I like him to give a little bit of something to the crowd. I'm totally fine with him giving nothing. Like, that's fine. Like, as long as he's, in contention, playing well. So yeah, Zalatoris, it's the play this week. 17-1, 16-1. Everyone's probably betting someone under 20. I think he's a better bet than these other guys at the top. I will say quickly, I'm not betting him or anything, but I really like Fitzpatrick this week. I think, again, total driver, extremely consistent, always finds himself at the top of the leaderboard, good on bent. Like, Fitz is a play in DraftKings this week. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him, maybe a top 10 or something, but I really like Fitz this week. Hopefully we can check him out. So as we kind of move down to, this next range a little bit, I think it, kind of changes a little bit, but we got Xander, Morikawa, Im, Burns, Cam Young, Hovland. I'll put it kind of just with those. I know that you are not betting any of these guys, but if you had to have a favorite of someone, maybe you're targeting a little bit, who do you like out of these guys? Because in my opinion, talking about DraftKings, I think that people are not going to be as inclined to play Collin Morikawa this week. I think people are just rather play someone they think of in their mind. Not saying this is true, but that is just a better driver and longer off the tee, like a Sam Burns, like a Cam Young, like a Hovland. So I think there'll be more popular plays. I don't think Collin is a bad play. I just think that he'll be less popular given the narrative that is forming around this event.
Yeah, and a player that I like, and I don't necessarily know what his ownership will be this week, or I haven't heard a lot about him, and I think last week he was a player that was extremely popular, one of the, at least on the like most tip chart, I know he was up there, and then performed fine, but really wasn't in contention, is Sungjae Im, going into that event off of back-to-back second place finishes behind Fenow, who, like we talked about earlier, has been playing some of the best golf of anybody in the world. And Sungjae Im, like you said, last year too, finished third in a similar, theoretically similar event to this. And I think he's hitting the ball. I mean, I don't think it's the stats back it up. He's driving the ball longer than he has at any other point in his career. And he was always accurate. And now he's adding some real distance off the tee. And he's gaining serious strokes off the tee because of that. And he gets on to the similar surfaces to what he theoretically saw last year at the BMW Championship. Gained 1.7 on those bent surfaces. I think he was probably a better Bermuda putter earlier in his career. And I think a lot of like the Korean players start their career as good Bermuda putters because it's somewhat similar to the grasses in Korea. But like he comes here, plays on more bent and becomes bent and starts to like bent as well and becomes better on bent. I've preferred Sungjae recently on bent. And so he gets back on that after finishing 12th at Southwind, which was easily his best finish there ever. His previous best finish was T5. So I never really got Sungjae last week. It didn't make sense to me to like win the tournament. I think he's a much better fit here. And so I didn't end up betting him, but I think that's a player that's probably not being talked about as much off what, in my opinion, was a really strong finish for him last week.
Yeah, no, he's been playing some absolutely excellent golf these last 3 weeks. And I like a little bit of a comparison to Caves Valley, and the fact that he was there, he has one of the best combinations of being long and straight off the tee. So I think Sanjay's a great play. I don't think I'm betting him, but he'll be in my DraftKings player pool. I think that's a good play. But the most obvious bet this week, in my opinion, and I think honestly one of the best bets on the board, is Cam Young. I know people got some good numbers. You could still get him at 28-1, which I think is very bettable. I bet him at 30. Threw a bunch of money on that. I really think I think there's a lot of kind of stars aligning for Cam Young to win. I think, in my opinion, he has one of the best just overall course fits. Again, we've never seen this course, but he is legitimately, a top 3 at worst, driver of the ball on tour. He just had back-to-back runner-up finishes at courses that are extremely driver wedge heavy, and one has super large green, the other one is bent grass. Has the ability to make a million birdies, needs a win on tour. His game seems to translate everywhere. Like, Cam Young just makes so much sense to me this week. And then you add on the fact that he gained 9 strokes ball striking and lost 4 putting last week. Like, you just bet guys. When they hit the ball so well. How many times have we seen that where we've seen people hit the ball very well, they couldn't putt, and then they go out and win? Yeah, I think even if he's a neutral putter, he's in it. Cam Young, 30-1. I think it's an amazing bet. The popular obvious play has been doing well. I think I don't think there's any reason to not be on him if you could fit him on your card.
No, I agree. It's incredibly simple. It's like the course is long and this guy hits the ball really far. Like, that's not rocket science by any way, shape, or form. And he's played good on courses where you have to make a lot of birdies, like he did at St. Andrews, and he can make a lot of birdies this week. Like, it's very straightforward. I am choosing not to get on it this week, but he's definitely, when you think of guys like you'll regret not playing because it was so obvious, like, yeah, Cam Young checks all of those boxes. My only concern is him putting on bent. Like, I don't think that's his best surface.
He doesn't have a best surface. He's a horrible putter.
Yeah, like,
he's not a good putter.
He didn't putt good at Memorial. He didn't putt good at the Masters. He putted fine at the PGA Championship, but like, for him to gain, he lost a ton at Shriners, which I'm pretty sure is bent. Like, for him to win, I think he'll probably need to gain like a stroke per round on the greens, just because he can gain so much off the tee and with his approach. He can certainly do that. I think that's the only question that makes me think, like, at 30-1, that's the roll of the dice that you're taking, which to me is a fair price.
Yeah, it's tough. It's always going to come down to the putting. I think that, watching the Open Championship like we were, I think that he missed it seemed like he missed every single putt. Like, it's crazy that he actually got to 19 under because he missed so many makeable putts all week. So I think if he just pops with the putter, I think that he'll obviously very much so be in contention. Zalatoris, Cam Young, dual forecast. They could finish 1-2 any other way, 225-1 on Bet365. If that hits, I am moving out of my house. Like, I'm getting my own place if they finish 1-2.
So obviously I want the finish to be Zal 1, Cam Young 2 if I have to like choose. But if one of my guys is not going to win, and that can happen while we're there, it would I can't think of a more amazing thing that's ever happened. But I texted you this, and I think you should have to do it. Is if you're going to back the Wake Forest duo to win your greatest bet of all time, and you don't show up with at least some sort of Wake Forest attire, like, what are we even doing here? I
need to get some. I don't know if I could get something on this short notice.
Like, if someone out there has Wake Forest gear that they can get to Brian by Saturday, that needs to happen, because he needs to be out there supporting his boys.
I got to be supporting my boys, or they're just not in it at all, and it's just complete waste. But that could very well happen. I know we've gotten through kind of our bets. I know you have some longer shots that we will talk about, but kind of this just like mid-tier of like this 8K range. Like, I think Spieth is a complete throwaway. I don't think there's any reason to play him. I think Lowry is a complete throwaway. He absolutely peaked. Like, I just don't think he's playing well. But I think Neiman, Homa, Decky, and like Wise. Like I think those are kind of the plays that people should kind of think about and go through. If you had to, pick a favorite or two favorite out of those, like these are guys that people have been betting a lot. And I think Neiman and Homa are elite drivers of the ball. I think Wise is one of the best ball strikers on tour. I was all over him last week, had a middling finish. Like I can see myself going back to Wise, but out of those four, who do you like the best?
Yeah, I think of those four, Wise was the one that I gave the closest look just because of what he can do with his ball striking. And then when you look at, obviously he's an inconsistent putter. Like everybody knows that about Aaron Wise. That's what keeps him from really being one of the top, 20 players, 25 players in the world, because he has all the tools from a ball striking perspective. He putted very well at the PGA Championship, and he putted very well again at Memorial on bent. So he gained 1.3 per round and then 1.2 per round at Memorial. He's been on some surfaces like you've got the fescue at the Open Championship. Who knows how he felt about that? Like, I think that's a risk that could come to fruition on Aaron Wise. Like there's an upside with Wise that maybe doesn't necessarily exist on other players. Like Neiman has been putting fine, but not good for an extended period. Like he hasn't really popped with his putter. I don't think he's putting at the best he has in his career. Versus Wise, you could see how he could show up and all of a sudden the putts are going in and he's hitting his long irons great and he's driving it really long. And all of a sudden he's got a Muirfield Village type of contending effort that he puts together. But probably a little bit more low scoring than Wise usually goes. But like we were just talking about Zalatoris, those are all narratives.
Yeah.
They can change very quickly in 1 week.
Yeah, no, I really like Wise. I'm going back to him. Like Neiman, if you look at the numbers from last week, it definitely makes a lot of sense. He gained 5.8 on approach, 1.4 off the tee, and was just a neutral putter, but like had a really good week. And I think that he wasn't ever really in contention, so he might not be on a lot of people's mind. But I know a lot of people, like, it's their last week of one and done. Some people are in the money, and I think a lot of people kind of like have like a Tom Kim, like a Neiman, like a Homa. Like I think Neiman is probably the best one and done pick to make if you don't have any elite guy. I am in the money of the Mayo one and done, and I have Fenow, Colin, Hovland, and like all those other guys left. So I didn't play it super well, but I'm still in the money, so I'm not gonna like regret anything. But I am rolling with Tony Fenow.
Yeah, you have to.
This week. It was an easy pick. Yeah. I was going to pick him. I was gonna play him at the 3M, and I changed it. But it's fine. It wouldn't have changed. It wouldn't have been life changing.
Doesn't he probably get way more money if he wins this tournament than if he had won the 3M? Anyway,
yeah, but he won the 3M.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like theoretically, there's a world where this ends up being like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Fenow's winning this week, so it will be fine. So I'm rolling with Fenow. You probably don't have him left, but I think Neiman, just based on the ball striking and the fact that it's a no-cut event, and he seems to play well on bent grass courses, like I think that's fine. Cam Davis is very interesting to me this week. Andy Lack made a great case for him on his podcast. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. The fact that he's an elite driver of the ball, the fact that in his last four starts, he's gone 8th, 16th, 14th, and 13th. I think that makes a lot of sense. He's going to be very popular on DraftKings. I want to play him. I think he's a good play. I don't, again, I'm not going to play a guy because he's highly owned. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I think Cam Davis is a great DFS play, a top 10, a top 20. I think that's a really good play on Cam Davis. Like, I think a lot of things check out for him.
I love Cam Davis because I was on him at Rocket Mortgage last year, like 125 to 1 or whatever he was. The first time I ever bet him. And like anytime somebody does that for you, they're one of your favorite players for the rest of the time. So like every time I see Cam Davis on TV, I'm hoping he's doing something good. Like he's just one of those players that I like to watch. And yeah, he ranked out really high in my model versus like where he is in the odds. He's 7th or 8th, I think, in the model. Looks like 8th. And he's just been gaining ball striking so consistently this year. He's a player that at some point soon you'd expect to have like a big time breakout and start contending in some serious tournaments. Like I think he's a player that we haven't seen the upside yet of what he's capable of. And I mean, I think he won the Australian Open down in Australia. Like that's a serious tournament and a big time win. And then he wins a Rocket Mortgage. He's still pretty young. I definitely could see this being a week where it's like, oh, Cam Davis, haven't seen him in the mix in a tournament like this before.
Yeah, I think it's just a good play. Like, he's going to be popular. I don't care. It's a good play, 100%. The next guy, you bet, someone I've, always been pretty keen to. But again, diving into this driver putter narrative, someone that's had some good results this season is Keith Mitchell. So he is your next bet. So what drew you to him and why were you on him this week?
Yeah, when I think of anytime the course is going to be longer and it could turn into a putting contest, it always crosses my mind like, let me take a look at how Keith Mitchell's been playing, because like that's where I think of Keith Mitchell playing well. And then when you just look at guys, if it does end up being that driver putting story that we've talked about of guys who are top 20 or top 15 in the field in both off the strokes gained off the tee and strokes gained putting over the last 20 rounds, there's Matt Fitzpatrick, there's Rory McIlroy, there's Tony Fenow, and there's Keith Mitchell. So I think he's just up there with the skill set of what matches this course and one of the few players that really has it. Those other players' odds are obviously significantly lower, and rightfully so. But I think there's a world where Keith Mitchell gets hot with the putter, and he's at least in the mix. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he can be up there.
I'm down. He's in my DraftKings player pool. I'm down. I'll play him, like, no problem. I also think it's fine to go back to Pendrith. Again, he just showed he could do well where on a course where elite driving is important. He's certainly good at that. And I think a lot of people aren't going to really play these like lower 7K guys or anything. But someone I play, almost every single week, and he's really paid off well for me in DraftKings and top 40 bets and matchups is Windham Clark. I'll be very much going back to him. I think he's a great play. I think he's a great top 20, top 10 play this week. I'll be all over him. He was in the top 10 going into Sunday and shot 1 over and just kind of fell back in the leaderboard. Did a lot of it with the putter, but he's someone that gains off the tee consistently. He's made 6 straight cuts on tour, 8th at the Rocket Mortgage. Like, he's just someone you should play in your DraftKings lineup, someone you should play top 20, top 10. I really like Windham Clark this week, but I kind of like him every week, but I think this is a really good setup for him.
Yeah, no, again, a guy who hits the ball far and can get hot with the putter, I think it makes tons of sense. And he's also not a consistent iron player. Like, that's what keeps him from being in the mix more often. And again, these greens are massive, so maybe he hits more greens, gets to putt more often, and that plays to his strength. I don't know what his DraftKings number is, but that I will be riding Team Teagues this weekend. Sahith Theegala is the electric factory. Like we said when we were at the Travelers, I don't think there's many guys who are more enjoyable to watch in person than Theegala. The shots he hits, like you go watch most players play a tournament, it's the same kind of shots. They all look the same, but Teague's shots do not look like the other players. Like, he's slinging them high, low, left, right, you name it. A lot of the times he pays the price for it because like it ends up way offline. But the thing about this course and the other places he's played well at, he's done some of his best ball striking numbers have come at courses that require more long irons. I think that's what he's best at from an iron play perspective. And he drives it waywardly, but rather long. And he's done all right at places where if he drives it offline, he's just in the rough. He's not like stuck behind a tree or in water or something, bad is happening to him. He can smash into the rough, play from there. And as we saw at Travelers, if this dude has a look at the green, like, he's probably making par or maybe making birdie because he's just got some unbelievable shots that he can pull off. So is he going to win this tournament? Highly unlikely, but you could easily see a world where Theegala has 2 wins this year. If a couple bounces don't go his way and you get him for triple the price of a Cam Young, I like Cam Young. I think it's a clear play, but my only thing when comparing those two is what tournament can you point to where Cam Young should have won? Like, he's been up in a lot of tournaments, but he hasn't blown it. There's never been a time where he walked away and said that was his tournament to lose. That's happened to Theegala twice, where you could very easily say that he should have won the tournament. So I just think he's got the upside to win at triple digits, which doesn't really exist in this field for the most part.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was kind of talking about it earlier on another pod, and I was like, I don't know. I kind of like Theegala on like TPC risk reward courses, maybe a little bit shorter because he was so great at the Travelers and the Waste Management. And then I was looking through it and I'm like, wait, he came 5th at the Memorial?
Yeah.
Like, I had absolutely no recollection of that at all. So that proves that he can do it on a bunch of different courses. And I know that when we were at the Travelers, you were very keen on him. So again, just betting off vibes, like gotta follow your boy Thiegs. And again, he played I played him in DraftKings last week. Like he kind of faded on Sunday, but he still came in 13th, like at the course. Like he's playing well. So I think it's a good play. Again, I think it's a pretty, it makes sense given his talent level and his odds. And I think I think he'll win during the swing season. Like there's no doubt. And I hope that you're on it because he will win during the swing season.
Yeah.
I think Cam Davis will win as well. Do you have a spot that you're eyeing Thiegs for in the swing season?
I think it's got to be Sanderson, right? Wasn't he in the mix at Sanderson?
I think so.
Hold on, let me see. I'm pretty sure he was up there at Sanderson, and then he kind of faded on the last day. But yeah, he tied.
No, not Sanderson. Miscut there. Fortinet?
No, Sanderson. He tied for 8th at Sanderson. He was 19 under par.
Oh, okay.
He was.
I was looking at it. Okay.
-8 in the first round, -5 in the second round, -5 in the third round, and then just 1 over in the final round. And he lost by 4. So he had to have been like in the lead or near the lead going into the final round. That's another place where he can just hit the driver wherever he wants, and then he can get the ball into the green and he'll be fine. So yeah, I think that's got to be where Teagues gets the breakthrough. If he
doesn't win this week
at the BMW Championship, because I think it's not just as likely. Obviously, he'll be much more of a favorite to win at Sanderson, but like he's capable of winning any event. He's shown up and competed in events that are not, the biggest events on tour, but like Phoenix is a pretty serious event where there's a lot of big time players there and like a huge crowd. Like I don't think it matters to him what tournament he's playing in. I think he thinks he can win every time he tees it up.
No, I love it. I think it's a great play. I'll probably play him in DraftKings. Last guy I want to talk about, it's probably the most obvious DraftKings play on the board. Trey Mullinax at $6,200. Like, I don't think we've seen a 6K guy like really get super high ownership. I think it will be Trey this week. I hope that people don't play it because of the ownership, because this is the biggest no-brainer play like I've ever seen in my whole life. Top 20 like matchups.
Like, top 20, the best play you've ever seen. I mean,
it might be it like genuinely. No, I'm saying draft. No. $6,200 Trey Mullinax in DraftKings is like the most obvious best play I've ever seen. Top 20, I do like him, but you look at what he's been doing and how he's been playing and how this course sets up well for Bombers. First, 21st, 37th, 5th last week at the St. Jude, like potentially, could have gotten into the playoff, like extremely long off the tee, just gained 5 strokes on approach last week, like that cheap of a price. Like, I like to play chalk, whatever. Like, I'm not, it's just I've been playing him. Like, I played him at the Open. I played him at the Rocket. I played him at the FedEx last week. Like, I'm not going to hop off now that he's just a clear misprice. I think it's a great play. I don't think that you should hop off Trey in DraftKings because he's going to be extremely high owned. He will be, and that's fine. And, I think with the no-cut event, there's a lot less room for error. You don't have the risk of a guy, bowing out and missing the cut. There's a guy that I think that can make a lot of birdies, even if he's, T34 going into Sunday. I think he has the capability to shoot a -6 round and really get going. So I think it's important to.
And I would add to that just like the style of the tournament. I'm not a huge DFS player, as like we've talked about and you kind of mentioned earlier, but I do like these weeks where there's like different, styles of play versus just your every week PGA Tour event. And I think there is, an angle that you could take that players who are on the fringes of making it into the top 30 and getting to Eastlake versus a player who's, maybe 12th or 13th, they play fine the first couple of rounds. They know they're not going to win, but like, it's not going to harm their position that much, whether they finish T20 or T40. I don't know the math, but I'm sure there's less impact on them versus a guy who's trying to climb up that board, get a top 5, top 10 finish. They'll be fighting to the finish, whether that leads them to playing better or not, like who knows, but at least you can know that a guy's not going to mail it in over the last couple of rounds if he's, fighting for one of those last spots at the Tour Championship, because getting to the Tour Championship, a fringe player like a Molinex, who just won this year.
Or Thagala.
Yeah, or it's about like there's these guys who will mean a lot for them going into next season.
You get into the Masters.
Yeah. And another reason why I'm really looking forward to going to this tournament, because like there's going to be interesting storylines across the board for like no matter what you want to be interested in, which is pretty unique versus most PGA Tour events.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped. It's gonna be great. You know, again, I really do think it's gonna be. I think what is the best number I could get on Fenow? Like I'm down to, like we'll just ride Fenow.
Is he still? He was 20-1.
Yeah, I think he was boosted on 365. But
and usually, I hadn't seen the whole year like anyone be boosted who performed well. But a couple weeks ago, Caesars, who when they boost someone, I usually just think like, it's not happening this week. They boosted Tom Kim. And what did Tom Kim do? They boosted him to like 45. And then like his odds went down. They boosted him again to like 35. Like they were like, bet Tom Kim. And what does Tom Kim do? He goes out there and wins the tournament easily, making an 8 on the first hole. So my bias against boost has been slightly impacted by that. At the end of the day, my opinion on boost shouldn't matter whatsoever on who I bet, but I'll just be honest that I have had a slight change of heart since that.
I think JT was boosted at the PGA as well. So yeah, I'm down. I'll bet Fenow, like Fenow, Zal, Cam Young, maybe a little bit overexposed. Like you got me, but 21-1, like that's fine.
And it's the last real tournament of the year. Like whatever exposed is fine. And I guess my question is, outside of who you've bet or whatever it may be, what are you most, maybe 3 things you're most looking forward to at the tournament? It could be inside the ropes or outside the ropes. Like you've been to a handful of tournaments now. Like, what are you most looking forward to?
I want to like literally fucking see the course. Like I want to see the layout, like the 2 course. Like I want to see how it sets up for viewers and what type of, views everyone can get if it's an easy walk. Like how close everything is. I can't wait to see Zalatoris.
Easy walk would be my guess, just based on like how long the course is, and it seems like hilly. I don't think we're gonna get the easy walk.
I'm down. I like to burn some calories. I want to see Zalatoris in the flesh. I want to see that he's like a real person and exists and is not like just some plant. So that's the other one. And then there's gonna be a lot of people there on Sunday. I think like. Even more so than the travelers. Like I think a lot of anyone from the East Coast is really going. I've had a lot of people hit me up on Twitter. DMs are flooded, like with people looking to link up. So I think Sunday, just off the top of my head, me, you, Jers, PGA Tout, Keith will be there, Tybo will be there, E-Bomb will be there. So we'll have a good crew. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and having a couple brews. But what are you most excited to see your boy Thiegs again?
It's like you don't know how much someone is one of your favorite players until you're like in this moment. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Teagues play. Like he just hits cool shots and he's a really nice guy. Like, as when you go to the tournaments, you'll yell out, good luck, whatever it may be, like keep it up, great shot, good putt, like to a player. And some players, they clearly like are in a zone where they're not going to listen to you. Teagues very consistently gives people thumbs up, like turns and smiles to the crowd. Like I told him like nice shot or something walking up to the 17th tee when he's leading the tournament or like tied for the lead at Travelers. And he's just smiling and waving and giving people thumbs up. And then stripes went dead down the center and club twirls. Like he's just a fun player to watch. So I am looking forward to that. And I'm hopeful to have a player in the mix because I don't know if either of us really had somebody in the mix at Travelers. So having somebody who's actually trying to win the tournament and in it for the long haul would always add a little bit.
Or we could just like rip someone like plus 200, like live odds, like just throw an uncomfortable amount on it just to like, feel something. So I think I think we're in for a good weekend. I'm looking forward to it. I think it was a great TIB pod. I appreciate everyone who checked it out. I don't know what we're doing next week. I don't know if I'm going to have a guest on, but I have to do a pod, so we'll see. But next week, it's kind of sucks. And then a week break. And then I think the swing season events will be pretty decent. But it's been a fantastic year. It's been a lot of fun. It went really fast. And I'm looking forward to putting out more content, in the fall. And before we know it, it'll be the TOC. And, people will be like, oh, I can't, like, the season's going to last forever and it will be over. So it was a great season.
Yeah, excellent season. I've been thinking I might write up a little article at the end of the year, some, betting highlights and lowlights of the year, because I think it's pretty easy to forget some of the, narratives and things that happen throughout the year, which are all things that we were so into at the time. And then, you don't look back and remember some of those. But yeah, coming up on the end of the season. And I know at this time when it starts to transition into the NFL, I know last year you were big on the placing NFL bets, and
I'm not
going into the year. I mean, now that you're with the NFL tout side of you coming out here in the next few weeks, I'm
not even going to pretend that, like, I know about NFL. Like, I'm not going to do that because it's half disingenuous and I just don't know. I will put, I'll be on NFL bets, but I'm not going to, pretend like I know.
I mean, NFL, I love data. I love betting. It's literally one of my favorite things. The amount of stuff that you see on Twitter, the in-depth stuff on NFL is insane. It's you look at it and you're like, how much time and energy.
Fantasy? The amount of fantasy content there is.
People have been drafting teams the whole summer. I've always thought of fantasy football as something you do a month before. Obviously, I'm wrong on that. Very clearly, the smart thing is not to just pay attention a week before. I get that, but that's how I've always thought about it. But yeah, Twitter threads, I mean, everything. It's insane. I couldn't even tell you the first thing about playing. All right, we got a nice a fan in here, Cam Smith. I'm bloody done with this tour, gone to live peace. That is Cam Smith. That is kind of the reach TIB gets. We get high level players in the tour. Question, since he popped up there that I was thinking about.
Yeah, now we didn't even talk about Cam Smith.
Cam Smith. The penalty that he got in the tournament, live and stuff is so divisive. You rarely see people agree when there's a live player involved, or in any way, shape, or form the narrative could be, PGA Tour versus live. People don't usually agree on that. I think it was pretty widely agreed that it was ridiculous that Cam Smith got a penalty an hour or two before his round, a whole day later, for a couple of reasons. One being just the betting markets and DFS and stuff. How can the PGA Tour be retroactively giving a penalty? I don't think that they're intentionally targeting him, but I do think you shouldn't be able to watch on TV later, the ref said that or the official said that he did, and then give a penalty. Because think about it, in every other sport, how an official could watch back what they did and did wrong, on the course or whatever, or on the field or the court. They can't go back and change that. That doesn't exist in any other sport. And then you also add in that not every player is televised and things like that. I've just thought it was wrong for him to get the penalty, and I was surprised to see how, I think broadly, that was what people thought. What did you think about
that? Yeah. I mean, it's tough. If you draw to the sports with other comparison, in every other sport, refs miss calls, basically every play. So if you're comparing it to that, obviously it's ridiculous. It was a sloppy play by him and his caddy to do that. He did not gain an advantage, but we're also talking about a sport where Tiger fucking Woods was penalized at the Masters in the biggest tournament of the year for taking a bad drop. It happens. John Rahm, what happened to him at the BMW 2 years ago. It happens. It was a completely unfortunate
to that point. There's other examples of this happening to major players, and that's why I don't believe in the narrative.
It was a conspiracy.
It's out to get him. I just disagree broadly with that should be able to happen in any of those situations. But it was funny because I was literally watching when that happened. I just happened to have
Did you think?
I swear, he pulled it left into the water, which I first thought was no one on this hole was hitting it in the water. I was like, Cam, what are you doing there? And it stuck out to me because I was like, why did Cam just hit it in the water on this hole? So then they cut back to him, and he's chipping from on the line. And it crossed my mind that wait, are you allowed to do that? I didn't know for sure what the rule was, but I felt pretty that I don't think you're supposed to be chipping from on the line. I wonder why he's there. Maybe his ball didn't go in the water. Even though I watched it clearly, part of me was did I miss something? And then when it popped up, I was not surprised at all. Literally not surprised at all. The next day when I saw the tweets, I was like, oh, I know exactly what they're talking about. I just was it was clearly on TV. Shouldn't the rules officials be paying attention when the golf's on TV and they said they talked about it and decided not to do a penalty, and then somebody else watched it later and they decided to give
that's bad.
That just doesn't make any sense.
And then him withdrawing this week, truly, like, there's no sense to be made about it. The thing that actually makes the most sense is that he's actually hurt, which doesn't really completely check out. To lose spots when you're in third at the FedEx Cup standings, like, you're probably not going to win. I think it's basically confirmed he's going to live. Like, if he plays Eastlake next week, like, it just doesn't make. If he plays Eastlake next week, I really do believe that he was hurt. Like, what other explanation is there?
You don't. So you're like saying that there's nothing sinister about, potentially there's nothing like sinister about what he's doing, which I would agree. Like, how do you know for sure what he's thinking? But I would say it's also possible there's another like route that is logical where he knows he's in good position going into Eastlake. Like, he doesn't really give a shit about the PGA Tour anymore, but like, he still wants to do pretty good in the overall FedEx Cup and like win a bunch of money, where he's like, and maybe there's a tinge of injury. Maybe he's just tired. He doesn't want to play the weeks in a row, like whatever it may be. And he could be like, that's the reason I don't want to play, and he's going to come back. But I expect him to play the Tour Championship. Like, I fully expect him to be at the Tour Championship. Do you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He's going to play?
No, I do. But it's just odd. Like, again, if he won this week, I think he wouldn't be in first. He would be in second. So the difference of 2 or 3 strokes in an already staggered start event, like, all right, like, he's probably not going to be the FedEx Cup Championship, which is great for the PGA Tour, and I'm glad he's not. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, it's just good that he's not winning. It would be completely unfair, regardless. Like, so it's just odd. Like, it's just extremely odd. I don't think the PGA Tour paid him off. I don't think Liv paid him off. Like, I just think he just made a decision in the moment that he didn't want to play. But I'm upset that I'm not going to see him in the flesh. I obviously wouldn't, heckle him or anything, but I'll probably never see Cam Smith in person again, which is upsetting. I'll probably go to a live event, to be honest.
Cam Smith will be in the majors. Like, if you go to a major, you'll see.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. But yeah, obviously a crazy situation. And it does suck to not see him in person, because especially in the practice rounds, like at the US Open, when he's just messing around the green with his wedges, like, it's a joke. Some of the shots that he can hit, like, no one else, like, there's a limited number of players on the PGA Tour who can hit some of the shots that he does. So great player to watch. Like, a shame that this whole thing is happening and he's like caught up in it. And then the last thing that I wanted to shout out, I was going to tweet it this week, but didn't do it. And then remembered I was coming on here and had to give a shout out to Chambers Bay, because
it was sick.
I grew up about 20 minutes away from Chambers Bay. I caddied there throughout high school and college. I probably caddied there 400, 500 times. Like, Chambers Bay is a sick course. And what happened at the US Open in 2015 was like the absolute worst case scenario in so many different ways. And like, the course didn't get represented in the way that it should. And like, the greens were terrible, like awful. Everybody knew going into the US Open that the greens were awful. Like, you caddy there and you're like, how are they going to play a PGA Tour or like the US Open on this course with the greens just truly, truly bad? So I was never surprised when what happened. But like, they fixed the greens. The course is unbelievable. And I think like the US Women's Am last week was a lot more popular than it probably is on a regular basis, playing at some like classic country club or whatever it may be that they will play it sometimes. Like, I think it was a huge win for the USGA. I think it was a huge win for women's golf. And I think it was a huge win for Chambers Bay, which made me, happy as somebody who
they got to bring the US Open back there. Like, 100%. It's an amazing venue. I really enjoyed watching it. I think it's a great course. So I hope that what happened in 2015 does not affect it going forward. And I know we've talked about it before that, the USGA likes to have a few events leading up. So even like a women's major there would be great. Like, they just need to go back there. It's great golf. Hopefully we'll go one day and we'll play some Chambers play. So great pod. We'll see everyone this weekend at the BMW Championship. And everyone have a great night.